Hi, I'm Dr. Sue, and I cure conflicts. What if I told you that you could choose to become the solution to any conflict in your life? You can. And today we have a very special guest with us who's going to talk to us about just doing that. Her name is Cathleen, Elle, and she is the author of the book, Shattered Together. And we are going to talk about some very deep topics today, but something that her and I hope will inspire you to move forward in your life in times when you feel that you can't. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome her to the show. Hi, Kathleen.
Thank you, Dr. Sue. It's great to be here.
Yes, I'm really excited to have you here with me today to discuss this topic that is not easy to discuss, I can imagine, but it is something that has changed your life in a positive way.
It sure has.
It really has. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about is losing your son to suicide at a very young age.
Yes.
So I guess we could begin by talking about what was your experience of going through that and then emerging from it? Because I think that a lot of the people watching right now cannot even imagine that you can emerge from that.
Yeah, it's so true. You know, most of my life I've experienced a tremendous amount of trauma and some amazing things in my life. But, you know, early childhood trauma to multiple divorces and just patterns of my life. And I never would have imagined as a single parent that I would ever have to deal with the fact that my son took his life. Right. And at the age of 19, when Logan died by suicide, he also died when he was angry at me, and he actually wrote a note saying he didn't want me at his service. So when you think the worst thing in the world could have happened is when your child takes their life, but then you find there's a note saying they don't want you there, it makes it even worse. And it just completely shattered me. And I found myself lying on Logan's grave months after he had transitioned, and just was begging and pleading, please, whoever, whatever took my son, take me too. I can't do this anymore. My body was heavy, my heart was hurting. It felt like I was walking in quicksand every step I took. I went deeper and deeper into this depressing feeling, and it was just this breaking point. And suddenly my body became still, and I'd stopped crying, and I heard out of nowhere from above that if this happened in your life, then you're meant to do something with it, so do it.
Wow.
And so as a former legislator, a government official, a business owner, I had enough contacts, I had the professional ability, the media outlets knew me well enough that they would pick up the story. And so I started speaking out about suicide, and it was then that I really changed the way that I chose to address my son's suicide. I could have died with him while I was living here on earth, or I could honor him and myself and others by picking up and continuing to move through. Now, it wasn't easy.
Right.
And there were many steps along the way.
That we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was then that I just made the choice that I have to help other people. If my tragedy can assist others in saving their lives or saving their child's life, then I want to inform people about how you talk about suicide, how you recognize the signs of suicide, and how you can actually prevent it by creating preventative measures in your daily day-to-day practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to talk about a few things that you just said there. One is you had gotten to a point and where you said something, someone, somewhere, help me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you got this sign.
Right.
Was it at that moment that something clicked inside of your brain, inside of your mind, and said, I'm not going to live this way anymore? I'm going to step forward out of this pain, out of this trauma, and move into healing? Because it's very difficult to do that and have that compassion for yourself and the self-empowerment to do that.
Yeah.
What
Well,
changed that for you?
I would love to say that that's when I started my healing journey,
Right.
but it wasn't then.
Okay.
It was then that I had found that maybe, just maybe, there was a purpose that I could find within the tragedy. So I could find a purpose to continue to live, to continue to honor him and to honor me. And so it wasn't then. It was after I started to speak out and I started to really become public about my story. And it was heart-wrenching. It was shattering all over again.
Yes.
Every time I spoke out, brought me back to the self-blame, the self-shame,
Right.
all the negative feelings that we feel when we go through something tragic in our lives that we blame upon ourselves. And shortly, about a year after, I went to a suicide prevention conference, and because I raised enough money in Vermont that we became the most improved chapter in the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And all I saw was data everywhere I went. Everywhere I looked, I saw data. And what it said to me is, you didn't do enough. It's your fault. And it just broke me completely open. And it was then that I just decided that I need to get help. I need to start to help myself in order to help others. So we can only help others as far as we are helped ourselves.
Completely agree with that. In a way, and you write about this in the book as well, Logan's passing was a gift to you.
Yeah. Yeah, he has given me so many gifts. Now, if I could give my life today so he could grow old with his sister,
Yes.
I absolutely would do that.
Yes.
And that's not a choice. And so how could I use Logan's tragedy, my tragedy, really to create the gift for others? And the gift for me that Logan has given me is that he's guiding me. He is with me every moment, like we mentioned earlier. The sign I received, or the signs that I saw many signs before then that his spirit, his energy is with me. And I needed more. And then as I started to heal through my healing process,
Yes.
I started to heal through multiple layers of all the tragedies
Yes.
in my life, all the traumas in my life. And I started to see the light. And the gift is that I have transitioned from myself, from being in these cycles of self-destruction when we don't even know it, to living a life of purpose and fulfillment and connection and joy and love and laughter. Like I love where I am today, knowing his spirit is with me every moment along the way.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
How did you begin your journey? You write about that a lot in the book, peeling back little layers at a time, taking those tiny steps.
So
How do you do that?
The first thing I tell my clients, my customers, my coaching clients, is that the first thing to focus on, no matter what tragedy you're in, is the grief prescription. And that is the 3 B's.
What is that?
Be in the moment, because you're looking too far out into the future. You are creating a story based on your pain. And it's not always going to be that way.
Okay.
Breathe is the second. Consciously breathe, consciously to take deep breaths, because that helps get you back down into the moment. It grounds you and it helps your energy to stay in motion. So your emotions are in motion. And third is believe. Believe that this too, you can make it through this. You can move through this as long as you take it 1 hour at a time. Move through your grief. It's moving through your pain, your fear, and your grief 1 hour at a time. It's stepping your toes into that water, just dipping your toes a little.
What did it feel like to you in the beginning to stick your toes into that little river, to begin this journey out of so much pain that you were in? I can only imagine it took an enormous amount of courage and strength to do that. It's often easy, isn't it, to stay in the pain
It's
and
so
not
much easier.
emerge from it.
Right.
Emerging is much more difficult.
Well, we perceive it to be much more difficult. Really,
It's a great point.
When we are perceiving that what we know is easier, and if we think, oftentimes we think the pain, sticking with the pain is what's going to keep their memory alive. We have these perceptions that are wrapped around our beliefs that really are perceptions. there are other stories that we're not aware of. So we become more aware of that. And so for me, I knew that I couldn't continue to live with the pain that I was living, that I wasn't honoring myself and I wasn't honoring Logan. And I had to do something differently because what I was doing wasn't working.
Right.
And as I started to go to a cognitive thought therapist, I started to see that the stories that I had formed from an early childhood to even to now were actually stories that weren't completely, they weren't full stories. They were only stories on limited beliefs. And so I started hour by hour seeing a cognitive thought therapist.
Okay.
And then I went to a post-traumatic stress therapy. And then I did everything I could. I saw mediums because I knew the signs I was receiving from my son, and yeah, I needed more. Like
what you did, in my opinion, which is truly amazing, and I don't know if you are aware of this, okay?
Okay.
But what you did was you began to give compassion to yourself.
Yeah.
Out of what happened. Not just from the loss of Logan, but from the beginning of time when you began to experience trauma.
Yeah.
And it is that self-compassion that you're talking about, I believe, which led you to take another step forward, to find another solution, because you didn't want to live that life anymore.
Right.
The way you were living it.
That's so interesting, Dr. Sue. I didn't see it as compassion for myself. As I started to move through the healing process, I knew that I was creating more compassion for my parents. I was seeing that there was more compassion for others. I had more compassion for others because honestly, at the very beginning and for many years thereafter, I believed I deserved the pain that I was receiving.
I could believe that you did.
I believed that I caused my son's transition.
So you were self-punishing.
Oh, I was definitely self-punishing. And
when we self-punish, I don't know if you know this, we can't get to compassion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We just can't.
Right. Well, you can't feel gratitude and have such hatred for yourself.
Right.
At the same time.
Right.
You know, so it's step by step. So as I look back now, I see that there was compassion, and I see more that there was forgiveness for others. It started forgiveness for others, and then I realized the more I forgave myself, the more forgiveness I had for others, and then I realized, oh wow, this is really about me.
Yes.
This is not about anyone else.
No.
This is about how I'm moving through my own journey of life.
That's correct. This is your own journey. This became your healing process and your own journey for healing yourself to get to a better place within your own life. That's what life is all about.
And the more I healed, the more joy and love that I could give to others because I was holding more joy and love of myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that takes time, and it takes a lot of self-forgiveness, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
I'd like to just hold your hand because
Thank you.
I'm so touched by you being here today. And sharing your story. You are so strong. You are so amazing. And there is a bright light, I don't know if you see this,
So sweet.
around you, in your face. Right now, as I'm talking to you. All right, we're going to go to our first break, and when we come back, we're going to have more with this amazing woman and mother, Cathleen Elle, talking about her book, Shattered Together. There's nothing that you cannot do within your own life to heal from tragedy. We'll be right back.
Who's she talking to? Her mom? She talks to her mom a lot.
Why buy local? When you shop with local businesses, you're spending your money on more than just the item you're buying. You're adding a building block to your neighborhood. It starts with a single purchase, maybe a cup of coffee, groceries from a local co-op, or even a shiny new bicycle from one of the nearly 28 million small businesses nationwide. Your money doesn't stay in the till for long though. Local business owners use the money to create a lot of economic activity in your neighborhood, like buying from suppliers, many of whom are also local businesses. Paying taxes to the city, which builds and maintains the infrastructure we all rely on. Employing local workers, contributing to 65% of the net new jobs each year. Add this all together and you've got a recipe for a happier, healthier, more connected neighborhood. Now that's an investment worth making.
Hi everybody, I'm Dr. Sue and you are watching the Dr. Sue and You Show. Today I am joined by Cathleen, Elle. She is a coach, a mother, and just an amazing, incredibly strong human being who is talking to us today about the loss of her son, Logan, and her book, Shattered Together, and how she has moved through this so beautifully with so much strength to come to the other side with such positivity. And I'd like to just jump back right in to our conversation today. And again, remind you of, how incredibly strong you are to be sitting here today. But mostly strong because of the work that you have chosen, okay, to do on yourself to heal from all of this. When we were just off camera a minute ago, I said to you, there are some people out there that believe they cannot heal from the tragedy, that they quit on themselves, that things will just change on their own. And you said to me, no, everybody can.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone
How do
can.
you get to that place?
I didn't start there, I did not believe that I could actually be in the place that I am today. The thought of being in a joyful, connected life, living a joyful, connected life, didn't even cross my mind. What I was trying to do is just get through the day to move through some of the pain that I just couldn't carry anymore, or I didn't want to carry anymore.
Right.
And I took it step by step. And each time I moved through a layer of pain, I thought, wow, I'm creating freedom inside. I felt a lightness and more connection to Logan.
Yeah. So what were those layers that you were peeling back? Can you describe them in words? Can you say what they were?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So the first layer was Logan's transition. I had to deal specifically about my son's suicide and my connection to that. And the first thing I want to say is anybody who's experienced suicide in their life, you've done the best you can with what you knew. If you did things because you loved them. So that I just needed to start with that.
Okay.
And then there were other layers of pain in my life. And I'll go all the way back to early childhood. I experienced sexual misconduct, if I may say, before I was even the age of 3. And so sexual, physical, emotional abuse. My birth father actually shot at us when I was 3 or 4. We were very young because he was an abusive alcoholic. And so it goes from there all the way up through. So there's multiple traumas. So what people may or may not know is what you program yourself with from 0 to 8 years old is how you respond to your life. So I believe, the program that I believed is I was unworthy, I was unlovable, that I should be ashamed of who I am, and I have to give more of myself to everyone else than to me in order to keep people happy around me. And so I created this pattern that I didn't even know I had. And so each time that I went a little deeper in my healing journey through, regenerating images and memory, where I'm a master healer now in that modality, or through ayahuasca, or shamans, or other natural ways to move through my healing process.
Yes.
Every time I started to go a little deeper and resolve some of the patterns or the programs that I had. The story around my father shooting at me. I had the belief that my mother didn't love me because she chose to stay with him even though the police came. And that she put me in one side where she and my sister were in the bathtub and I was between the toilet and the wall.
Right.
And at that moment, at 3 years old, I programmed myself to say, what about me? I'm not lovable because I'm not there. By going through some of the natural healing modalities that I've experienced, I was able to reframe that story of like, hold it. Of course I'm lovable. The only place she could fit me so I could be safe was there.
Right.
And she stayed. She chose to be beaten day after day after day because she thought that we would be taken away. Her children would be taken away from her.
So she sacrificed.
So she sacrificed her life. Fortunately, I have a father in my life that she left, my birth father, and he adopted me. Fortunately, that shifted later on in life.
Right.
However, she did sacrifice a lot of her life for us. So I have a totally different story that you can feel the compassion now for her, for my dad, my birth father.
It's all about compassion.
Yeah, it's reframing our stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes,
It's
about what's
reframing.
going on around us.
Yeah,
And that through this tragedy of losing your son, you came to terms with all trauma in your life.
Right. Yeah, and
That's,
it's a journey.
that's the beauty that you talk about within the book that I was floored upon. Where many people would say, I'm so angry, I don't know how I can ever get past this.
Yeah.
But in a way, his passing, as traumatic as it was, healed you.
Right, and I even see his passing differently than what most people do.
Yes.
So I see Logan's, so his physical presence is not here, and I miss that still today.
Of course.
During the holidays specifically,
Oh, yes.
that still happens. His physical presence isn't here, but his spirit, his energy, his gregariousness, his being, his presence is with me all the time. So I see it as a transition, so where he's no longer held in this body where he was full of pain, and he's shining his light and he's guiding me. I talk a lot about this in Shattered Together. Like, Shattered Together is a universe book. It's not my book. Even the cover was channeled.
Yeah.
Like on the cover,
Let's hold that up right
this
now.
here is my son's side profile of his face and the heart.
Oh.
And if you look at the cover,
and it's surrounded.
right, by the light. And there's an angel over here that I didn't realize there was. And here's hands around here. Like, the cover was channeled.
Magnificent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see it. I mean, I feel as we're talking here that I'm with you and understand this now because you have beautifully and eloquently described this of how it is. And I see that.
Yeah. And so it's really what we choose to tell ourselves. If we choose to continue to tell ourselves that we're victims, then we're going to be victims.
Yes.
If we choose to tell ourselves that we're not worthy to be married, then we're not worthy to be married.
Or we're not worthy to receive forgiveness, or we're not worthy enough to, in my work, get your kids back into your life, or bring. It all begins with us.
Right.
So, did you say to yourself, I am worthy enough to go on and live my life and have joy in it, even though this trauma happened to me?
I didn't start there.
I bet you
think
didn't. That's why I'm asking you.
The key to this is like you do not start where
That's
I am
correct.
today, and each moment, like whatever triggers you to go to get help, then that's what you focus on. Because each time that you take that one step, you focus on that 1 hour. You continue to move forward each moment by moment. There are days that I thought I was still sinking in quicksand.
Yeah.
There are other days I was swimming in a mucky pond. And other days I was floating in the ocean. And other minutes, like it is ebbs and flows, no matter what it is. Mine is traumatic with a son.
Yes.
But I've been through 3 divorces.
Right.
I mean,
You had to come on the show and talk about that another time.
Yeah.
But right now I'm talking about you and your healing and your amazing inner strength to do the work that you've done on yourself. Being here today and sharing this in the way that you are is going to speak volumes to the people that are watching this.
That's my life purpose.
It's speaking volumes to me sitting here right now that you can overcome almost anything in your life. That, I start off, you can become a solution for yourself.
Right.
And you have done it. There's so many powerful moments and quotes in this book, and one that jumped out to me so much, I'd like to just read it now.
Okay, great.
You wrote, "The healing journey is truly a journey. We can choose to live a life of pain, or we can choose to live a life of healing. You will be challenged numerous times on this path, but I believe in you." Now I wonder, when you said, "But I believe in you," were you saying that to yourself for many years? That I'm on this journey, I'm on this path? That I believe in me, that I can get there?
No, I didn't say that.
But that's what you were
consciously
doing.
now, as I look back, I'm like, wow, yeah. Then each step I took, I was creating another layer of belief for myself.
Yes.
Like, okay, I did that. Wow, okay, I made it through that. I can do this. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So when you are saying this in the book, and you are saying this to others or to me, but I believe in you, you had to believe in yourself first to get to the point where you could say, I believe in you now.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm there now, for sure.
I know.
I believe in me now.
What is it in your mind are the 3 biggest influences that allowed you to come to the place you are now?
One, it would be knowing there's a connection to spirit.
Okay.
Knowing that, knowing there's a connection to a higher power, whatever that higher power is.
Right.
Like knowing that. 2 is the work that I did, and it can be any healing modality that you choose. It's truly stepping into my healing journey and really knowing that it's one step at a time.
Okay.
And 3 is each time I felt lighter, I wanted more.
I love that.
Each time I felt
I
lighter,
love
I
that.
wanted more.
More of what?
More of lightness,
There
more
you
of
go.
connection, more of what I was feeling.
And you had to do...
It gave me hope.
It's beautiful. Hope,
inspiration.
compassion,
Yeah.
connection, self-love.
Yeah.
These are all of the things that are the solutions to healing our lives
Yeah.
in any trauma that we're in. And you are an amazing bright light that is shining down on everyone. And I hope that your story of what you've shared with me today reaches many, many people that are hurting through traumas of their own, because although your journey was a different trauma, it's a journey that all of us go through.
That's true.
When we're dealing with any kind of trauma in life.
Right. I'm just guided to just say again, you know, I don't think that I said it earlier, but I'm
Go
not
ahead.
doing this on my own. Like there's a connection. I'm co-creating
Yes.
right now. No matter what
Yes.
I'm living, I'm co-creating. So that's really,
I love
I don't think I
that.
said that, but I was just guided to like, I'm not, when we feel alone, we're really not alone.
We're never alone. And when we co-create, right? Your healing is co-creating healing for others. This show today is going to co-create healing for others going through trauma, and that came from you.
Yeah, that's great.
You're an incredible, incredible human being. One of the strongest that I've ever had the privilege of sitting with on this show today. I admire your strength, and continue, please, to bring this light inside of you that you have cultivated to the world.
Thank you.
It's so meaningful. And please, everyone, it doesn't matter what trauma that you're going through. This book speaks volumes to all of it. Shattered Together by Cathleen, Elle. It's just incredible. And it touches your heart in ways that you cannot imagine. I want to thank you so much for being on the show with me today and sharing your deep personal story with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm just grateful and honored to be here.
And you do work with people.
I do.
One-on-one too,
Yeah.
don't you?
I do one-on-one coaching. I have healing circles. I'm starting a new program in January called From Grief to Belief Stepping Stones. So there's definitely a way that you can reach me at CathleenL.com.
There you go, CathleenL.com. It's so easy. And your website's great. I've been on it many times.
Thank you.
I wish you nothing but more positivity in your life and teaching people how to grow and become from trauma and tragedy in your life. You are a gift
Thank you.
to this world. You really are. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Dr. Sue Show. This was a very powerful and moving episode that everybody who has gone through trauma can watch and get some really amazing help from. You can become the solution to any conflict within your life. But as we learned today, it starts with you. Have a great week. Bye-bye.